Good morning, Prairie View. It is Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, and it is time for your midweek update. My schedule this week has been a little bit different. That's part of why we're doing this video in the morning instead of during the afternoon. Originally, we had scheduled a kind of mini short getaway to Michigan City to take the boys to Indiana Dunes, but that did not happen because a few days ago, the city of Michigan City announced that the beaches were closing because of the increased spread of the coronavirus. So we're doing a staycation instead. I'm taking tomorrow and Friday off. We're going to go do some fishing, maybe get breakfast somewhere, just try to do some fun stuff with the kids. So my schedule is a little bit different this week, which is why I'm doing this in the morning. But we really don't have a whole lot to share. A few things have been happening in our community recently that are worth talking about. Number one is that last Friday, HSE schools announced the change to their reopening plan. Instead of kids being in the school buildings Monday through Friday all day, starting August 5th, the earliest that will now happen would be after Labor Day in the month of September. So I would encourage you to think about and pray for families that have kids starting school. That has been very uncertain, and now we have a new plan to adjust to. So pray for those families as they figure out how to adjust to HSE School's new plan. There are several families in our church that send kids to that school district. Some of them may have to be thinking about childcare. Some of them may have to be thinking about daycare and all kinds of ways that this change affects that. Some families, of course, are completely stepping back and reevaluating the way they educate their kids in light of the coronavirus, in light of all the changes, and maybe that's a good thing. But there's certainly a lot of families in our church that are trying to adjust to this change in our school system. There are also people in our church who work for the school system, who I'm sure are being pretty largely affected by this. So pray for those families in our church who have kids going to school, whether it's in the next month and a half or whether it's a little bit longer, whether they're in school in person or whether it's something else. Pray for those families, and then we also ask that you pray for teachers and staff, people who work at those schools who I'm sure are just as uncertain about the future as I am as a parent, as a family like ours is. So pray for those people, pray for our community, as our community adjusts to the ripple effects of that sort of change. On top of that, I also bring to your attention, if you haven't already heard, that within the last day or two, the City of Fishers announced a mask mandate in our city starting this Friday, the 24th. And as we've talked about before, we know the masks are controversial, kind of a hot button topic. But honestly, the mask mandate in the City of Fishers starting this week doesn't change much of anything at all as far as our church is concerned. We were already requiring masks in the building on Sunday mornings, so that's going to continue. As I've mentioned in previous midweek updates, we have an elders meeting not tomorrow, but the next Thursday, where we will talk about our precautions and the different measures that we're taking on Sunday mornings, and surely masks will come up again. We'll see if we can maybe make any sort of tweaks or adjustments to our precautions. But again, as much attention as the mask mandate in Fishers is getting, honestly, it doesn't change anything for our church right now. So nothing too concerning as far as your Sunday morning routine goes. Now, on top of that, like we say every single week, we ask you to RSVP for this coming Sunday morning. It's always helpful to know how many people to expect at our church. So the RSVP is where it always is. It's on the website under the Sunday morning tab. Nancy will also send it out in her email later today, along with Zach's devotion for the week. And we will also put it on social media. So you have all kinds of ways to get to that link, all kinds of ways to RSVP for Sunday morning. So we would appreciate your help in doing that. One thing we have learned is that when you RSVP, please make sure to include your email address. There have been a few RSVPs the past couple of weeks that have been slipping through the cracks. Normally, every time someone RSVPs, I get an email. Joshua gets an email, Zach gets an email. That way we know who has RSVP'd. But if you don't include your email in the RSVP form, those emails, we think, do not get sent to us. So when you RSVP, make sure you fill out the form and completely. That includes your email address. That way we can get that RSVP and be ready for you when you get here. Now, other than that, no real announcements or news to share as far as the life of our church goes. One thing I will say is that last week at about this time on Wednesday, I recommended a book by J.I. Packer, Knowing God. And as Joshua mentioned during the welcome on Sunday morning, ironically, just a couple of days after I recommended that book as a good source of sound doctrine about God, J.I. Packer passed away at the age of 93. And there have been all kinds of tributes and articles written to remember and honor J.I. Packer's life and J.I. Packer's ministry. But one thing I did read that I think is worth sharing is that in one of his very last interviews with a Christian writer, Christian columnist, J.I. Packer, when asked, how would you sum up your charge for the church in your final years of life as you approach death? What challenge would you leave behind for your fellow believers? And J.I. Packer's challenge was just 4 words: glorify Christ every way. Glorify Christ every way. So, my challenge for you this Wednesday, the rest of this week, between now and Sunday when we see you again, is the same as J.I. Packer's. Glorify Christ every way. Think and pray about how you can glorify Christ today and tomorrow and Friday and Saturday until we get together again on Sunday to glorify Christ every way as a church. So that concludes our midweek update. Have a great rest of your week. If you're traveling, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you on Sunday for worship. Take care.